How to install the wiring harness on your motorcycle, coming up next. What's up everybody, this is Monty with House of David MC, and today is part 12 of our GN250 series where we're talking about how to install the wiring harness on the motorcycle. So in order to get the harness back in the motorcycle, we're going to have to do some rewiring, especially around the ignition switch and some other components. Finally, we're going to install our new Dime City cycle speedometer and make sure all the indicators are lighting as we expect up to this point. We got a lot to do, so let's get to it. Okay guys, so as we begin to reinstall our wiring harness, the first thing we're going to have to do is relocate our ignition switch connector, which is in the front of the wiring harness, back to our electrical tray where we've moved the ignition switch. Our ignition switch connects to our console plug and also to the kill switch and the starter switch right here. And this gray wire is what we're going to have to make our connection and then run a length of cable back this way to the electrical tray. So now that we've opened up that section of the wiring harness, we can see where all three of these gray wires, so this one from the ignition switch, here from the kill switch, and there's one from the console that comes down, and they all connect right here. And so what we want to do is we want to replace this wire that connects to the ignition switch and extend that, so then we can run our ignition switch connector into the electrical tray. So here's our connection, and again, this gray wire connecting to the ignition switch plug is the one that we're going to replace. So we're just going to depin this thing, get a whole new wire, replace this guy, soldering back into here, get a length of cable that's long enough to go back that way to the electrical tray. So this is probably easier to see after the fact, but I've depinned the connector, and you can see underneath these pins they've got this little bitty tab that as it slides in from the back, this little tab locks down and prevents it from coming out. So what you do is I took a little, this is a little like teeny tiny Allen wrench, and I stuck it down in here, depressed the pin so I could pull it out. So guys, I went ahead and depinned the whole connector because we're going to remove this one altogether and move it down that way. We're also going to move the orange one towards the electrical tray in order to make a connection. So we don't need those two up here anymore. The other two, the red and the brown, they run the full length of the cable, so I feel like we'll be able to go down there and just pull them through. Okay guys, so this new green wire is technically our gray wire. So what I've done is I've fished it through the shrink wrap sleeve, and it's heading back that way towards the electrical tray. And so now we just need to tie that in, so we're going to solder that now. Now we're going to solder our green wire to our gray wire on the electrical tray end. Okay guys, so I have tied in our orange pin into this orange wire right here, and I've spliced these wires together, and now I'm just going to solder this final connection right here. Now let's reassemble our ignition switch connector. Make sure you put the pins in the right order. That's why I drew myself a little diagram. Okay, so the wiring harness is coming together, it's getting in place, all the wires are kind of flowing, kind of sort of the places we want them to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the original brake light connector, and we're going to attach it to our new brake light so we can just plug and play. Okay, so I have our original tail light from the GN250 right here, and actually the original battery. Since I don't know what wires do what, high beam, running beam, I'm just going to use our battery. I'm going to use some alligator clips with a little test lead, and I'm going to use the original battery to light this thing up and determine what goes to what, so we can use our original connector and fab it into our new brake light. So since we're using LED blinkers, we need to replace our OEM relay with a new relay that's suitable for LEDs. Simple. Next we're going to wire up our new fancy speedometer, brought to you by Dime City Cycles. So again, we're going to use the OEM connectors to connect to our new speedometer. So we don't need this anymore. So our new speedometer has an oil indicator, but the GN250 doesn't have an oil sensor, so the red and black wires we're not going to use. So here's our speedometer in place. Just got to route those wires now. The original GN250 console had two blinker indicators, one for left blinker and one for right blinker, and now with our new speedometer we only have one indicator. So what we have to do is install a diode kit, and basically a diode is just a gate which just allows the current to flow one direction, so that prevents the turn signal from going through the LED back into the other blinker and causing that caution light kind of symptom that you see a lot of times. So now we'll just make it permanent. So if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. Like the videos, make comments, share them with your friends. As always, this has been Monty with House of David, taking one motor, one revelation at a time.